it'll work. It says you're live.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Chearsley Parish Council meeting on Monday, the 15th of June, remotely via video conference, as we have done for the last few. And let's move into the agenda. Firstly, we have parishioners' question time to start the meeting. And Helen, have you had any requests or any emails?
No, I haven't had anything in this time.
Has any of the councillors had any requests or emails?
No, nothing. Well, it's obviously come to the parish council generally on the psychopath thing, psychopath.
Psychopath, yeah.
Psychopath from
Brian Green.
Brian Green, thank you. Yeah.
So we can erase that then for later in the meeting. Okay, right. Well, we move straight into apologies for absence. I think with John Lewis, I can hear him but can't see him. Are you there, John?
He is.
Have I not got video on?
Yeah, you've got video on. Depends what device you've got on. You're watching on, Nick. Are you on an iPad?
iPad.
Yeah.
You need to swipe to the next screen.
You've come to number 10 of 9 on mine, so you're not on mine, John, but we know you're there.
Okay, I can't see why I wouldn't. I've got video on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's just a restriction of the iPad when you've got quite a few people on.
Oh, okay.
You have to swipe it between screens to see everyone.
That's fine. I can hear your dulcet tones, John.
Okay, I'll keep them that way.
We'll see how we get on. We might have to ask one of our officers to pop off later to get you back on. Sorry, officers, but this is...
I can pop off now if you want.
Well, do you mind if...
No, I'll come back a bit later on for my report on...
Will you stay with us, though, on volume? Will you stay with us on...
Paul knows anyway, so...
Yeah.
Okay,
Ian,
I'll leave the meeting.
No, just put your video off, Ian, for now.
Video off. Okay.
Stay with us on
Stay on
audio, Ian.
Okay.
Please.
Stop video. Here we go.
There you go.
Hi, John.
Do I look better now, Nick?
Pardon?
I said, do I look better now?
That is a matter of pure conjecture, probably. But, okay, so apologies for absence we've done. There aren't any apologies for absence. Wonderful. Declarations of interest in accordance with sections 30 and 23, subject 3 and 2 of the Localism Act. Has anybody got any personal prejudicial or pecuniary interest pertaining to the agenda?
No.
It's probably just worth mentioning that I can't be involved with the planning application for the lodge since I'm a neighbour.
Yeah, got that.
Likewise on that.
Paul as well.
And Cornerways, in my case.
Yeah, so...
Big garden, I cover both of them.
So it's both planning applications for Paul and just the lodge for John, is it?
That's right.
You can just note that. Approval of minutes of Monday the 18th of May. Do I have a proposer?
Yeah, look fine to me.
Thanks, Paul. Seconder?
Seconded.
Yeah.
So I'll sign these now, Helen.
Thank you.
Okay, Helen, matters arising?
So there was only one actual action on the minutes from last time, which was regarding the risk register. So whether we deal with that first and then see whether anybody else has got any other points from the minutes from last time.
Okay.
So Keith, did you want to talk about the risk register?
Sure. So I've sent a very, very early draft. I've been looking at risk registers across, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 parish councils. So I put something very roughly together, but I'm going to take another look at it because it was done, to meet the meeting deadline today. So, I think I've had some feedback. It may be a little ragged, So I'm going to go back and look at it a bit more strictly. And we may not need the first document I sent out, which is why you need the risk registers, because that's almost self-evident these days, and more concentrate on the actual risk register itself. So I will take that and recirculate that. The other thing, I think it will need some additional discussion outside the PC meeting to just get it into an acceptable shape, because one of the things it tries to do is, a risk register could cover an enormous amount, and I think proportionately for a parish council, we're not a big commercial organization, we just need to focus it on the things that matter to us and try and be laser focused, if that makes sense.
If you need some support on that, Keith, let me know.
I'll definitely love to talk to you on that, Robert, because it's you can go completely overboard on these things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had a quick look at it, Keith, just half an hour ago. I thought it was a good shot to get us going.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Some thoughts occurred to me, but if you're going to have another go at it, I'll perhaps hang on for that.
Well, what I'll try and do is, for those who are interested, let me know, because I think I need to, as I said, I just did a kind of bootstrap effort, but I really need to tap into the combined wisdom and experience and knowledge of everyone on the PC and officers, because I'm sure a lot of you have come across these things.
That won't take long.
I was going to say it's going to be a quick thing.
No, I disagree. So
Thank you.
if you're interested, let me know, because I'd like to just circle round and keep moving forward.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
We are live. Okay. Keith, thank you. Jules? Julia?
Yes.
Are you saying something? Sorry.
No.
No. Okay. Robert, is this a good time to talk about anything else? Talking about risk assessments, or do you want to cover the assets under the finance report?
If it's okay with you, I'll cover it under finance.
Okay, fine. So approval of minutes. Anything else on there at all? Matters arising? Helen?
I don't believe so. That was the only action we had in yellow, was about the risk register. So I don't think there's anything else, unless anybody's got anything to add.
I mean, it wasn't listed as an action point, but I think we're going to have a broad discussion on traffic calming, and I was going to talk about the traffic survey, but probably better to do it afterwards rather than now.
Okay.
It was referenced in Helen's minutes, but I think we're going to have a broad discussion on various aspects of traffic calming. So, very happy to leave it till then.
Okay, thanks, John. So, planning. Paul, sorry.
Comment either of those two. Yeah.
Martin, would you like to take us through Cornerways?
Yep, by all means. I've circulated an email to all councillors. I've had responses from everybody except Paul, who's abstaining for the reasons he's explained. I haven't heard back from you, Julia. I don't know if you've got views on this one.
Yeah, I'm really, really sorry. I haven't even had a chance to look at it. I've got quite a lot going on at home here, so I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'm very sorry. Yeah,
that's absolutely fine. I mean, everybody else is in accord with what they want to do. So, I mean, do you want to sort of have a look at it, Julia, or do you just want to go with the majority, or how do you want to do this one?
I'm happy to pop down and have a look, but if the majority is already formed a decision, I'm happy to go along with that as well. It looked fairly straightforward from the correspondence I've seen going backwards and forwards. Yeah, I think the majority view is that it's a very straightforward one. There's nothing really contentious in it. And if everybody's happy, I'll just do a note to Helen asking her to say that we have no objections.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Now the lodge, I'm not sure that anybody's picked that up as yet. So I'm wondering, Martin, whether you'd be prepared to pick that up.
Yep, sure. Yep, I'll do that. I'll get onto that
I could
tomorrow.
have asked Jules, but I am aware that Jules got quite a bit going on, as she said. So
Yep, no problem.
be mindful of that. So if you don't mind picking up the lodge.
Yep.
Do we need? I haven't read the details, but I'm assuming this is going to be along the lines of the previous one, but with amendments and changes and bits and bobs. Do we need a site visit, Martin?
I don't know at the moment. I haven't actually looked at this one myself yet.
Okay.
I would imagine normally where it's a demolition and erection, I think we probably will need a site visit on this one. So I'll try and get that organised.
I think I would agree. Yes, I would agree. I think there should be a site visit. Keith,
have you got the notes from the previous application that we submitted?
I don't, but Helen, maybe you could dig them out.
Yeah, I can have a look. I mean, they should be on the portal, I would have thought.
Okay.
Yeah,
have a look.
It's not on the. Sorry, I can just comment on the practicalities of this. It's not on the portal because the parish council submitted an objection and requested that Nick attend the meeting, and that Nick's meeting notes did not appear on the portal. Wouldn't appear on the portal. So whatever was said at the meeting is Nick has the information.
Well, I can't think I've got any information to hand, Paul. Are you talking about in front of committee?
You spoke to the committee on this one, if you remember.
Yeah.
And your comments to the committee were not recorded on the portal. There was no opportunity for you to do so. It was just they're not there. So
would it not have been recorded though at committee by ABDC? They must have
if it was, it's not recorded on the portal.
That's interesting. I thought that duty of care in terms of recording what I'd said. But anyway, Helen, can you have a look into it for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's October 2016, isn't it? So it's a long time ago. I can go onto the portal and see what's on there under that number. But it sounds like Paul's already done that, have you?
I have, yeah.
And if that's the case, can we drop ABDC planning a note and ask for what records were kept of the conversation at committee? I would think they have some duty of care to at least record things like that.
You would think so.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't got any notes in front of me, or well, I can look through my files and see if there's anything, but nothing springs to mind.
How long ago was the previous application?
4 years ago.
So that would have been before I was on the council, or was it? I'll have a look. Actually, I might have something.
Well, it doesn't matter. But let's all have a rummage around. Helen, if you can rummage around, I'll have a rummage around, see what we come up with.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go onto the portal and just look as well, and then I can email ABDC and just see if they've got a record of what was said at the planning committee meeting.
Yeah. I would have imagined it was along similar lines to what we objected to as a council. I don't think I'd have gone there and made up another story.
The council purely showed a thing saying object and wished to speak at the meeting. That's all that's recorded.
Yeah, I think it was before my time.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. We're here now together, so we need to dig into it and find what we can. And in the meantime, Martin, I think it's going to be judged on its merits anyway now.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important ingredient. But nevertheless, we'll see what research we can turn up.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's necessary to wait for something to turn up. I think I can crack straight on with organising a site visit and take it from there.
I agree.
Can I just make the point, chaps, but just for the record, this is actually a brand new application. It's not the other one expired in October 2019. This isn't a renewal of permission, it is a brand new application. So I think you probably will need to do a site visit.
Yeah.
Agreed that. And as it's a brand new application, it almost makes my comments at a committee meeting almost null and void.
Yeah.
So do you still want me to chase that, or?
Just let's see what we can uncover, but let's not spend inordinate amounts of time, Ellen.
Okay.
Okay. Any
So
other?
sorry, just to be clear, can I just confirm Paul and John L are abstaining on this one?
Yes.
Correct. We're unable to comment. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
No, not abstaining. We're unable to comment.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Any other planning bits and bobs filtering through that we know of?
Not that I know of. They're the only two I've received.
Okay. Okay. Correspondence, Helen.
I believe that Paul's got some bits on tree matters, but nothing else has come through other than what's already been sort of dealt with. But I think Paul mentioned there was 3 different tree matters to deal with under correspondence.
Yeah. Do you want to treat it almost as a separate item, actually, because I probably should have asked you to put trees on as a sort of particular item, because there are 3 or 4, and obviously we've got Ian's report as well. Shall I run through those very quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, to get my notes. Yeah, we've had an email from Angela Spence regarding the overgrown hedges and self-seeded blackthorns in Dark Lane. In fact, where her house adjoins Hicks Path. Ian and I have carried out a site visit, and we'll be meeting with our tree people on Wednesday to determine exactly what needs to be done. There is actually there's also complication. There's a questionable ownership on this one, because the trees, or some of the trees, appear to be sited on the far end of the plot, which has recently had planning permission on the back of Bernard's in Bernard's Close. So we're going to determine what needs to be done, and concurrently, I've been in touch with Andy York. We're trying to find out, or trying to get hold of the new owners so that we can meet them on site and agree who owns what, rather than us cut down their trees or them not cut them down when they need to come down. There are some, Angela has a very valid point. These hawthorns have grown out of nowhere, and as everyone sees all around the village, this has been a very, very good growing season this year, because of the sun and the rains appeared at the right time. So it's not surprising we've had a few issues arisen, and there will be others, but hopefully we'll sort that one on Wednesday. There will need to be some work done there. The second one, just up the road, there's a maple now which is overhanging the road. This again is a result of heavy growth during this year, which has brought the level of the branches down. Needs trimming, and that can be agreed again on Wednesday. That's fairly straightforward.
Is that in Dark Lane as well?
That's in Dark Lane as well. Yeah, it's one of those areas.
It actually, the whole thing borders, doesn't it, Paul? It's Dark Lane, then into Hicks Path.
Hicks Path, yeah, and strangely, number 3 is also in Hicks Path, and there are 3 walnut trees. These are 3 of the ones that were planted in the 1978 replacement program for the Dutch elms the elms that came down. And one of those is definitely dying. I think John Lewis is aware of that, because you probably see it from his house.
I think you mean farmyard path, Paul.
Sorry, is it farmyard path? Beg your
Yes.
pardon, it's farmyard path. And one's definitely dying, in fact, and one is not looking terribly healthy either. So we're going to be looking at that again on Wednesday. And in fact, we should have some additional view from Rose, who's going to come along and give her some views on that as well. We also yesterday, and this hasn't been acted upon, but I will raise it because this is an issue that occurs elsewhere around the village. There's a question raised about the walnut tree on the corner of Shups Lane and Church Lane, where the BT lines are going through. And I responded initially to the query from Robert Spark saying we're not allowed to touch the trees where the branches run through. I'm not speaking here with a parish council hat on. I've actually had this myself, where we had some lines through trees, and they said don't touch it, not allowed to. They came and cut it. As it happens, they don't do a very good job, as you can imagine, because they try and cover themselves for the next 2 or 3 years. They have a responsibility for keeping their lines clear. And well, I suppose we've got a bit of a dilemma here because if they do the same job as we'd expect them to, BT, they're probably going to cut a fairly huge hole in the corner of that, or the side of the it's again same type of tree, the walnut tree. I think Keith's had further correspondence here, but in fact, I believe this might not be it might be an open reach issue rather than BT. But Robert, I think, had a conversation with them. They said it wasn't their problem. So I think it's in the pending tray. I think work needs to be done to ascertain what can and can't be done. But it is one of those situations where if BT or OpenReach do work on it, we'll probably need to go and do some work to rebalance the tree, because I can just see exactly what they'll do, and they'll sort of cut a hole straight through the middle of it, which isn't going to be particularly pleasant. So it's an ongoing one. Final tree matter, really. Sorry, Keith, carry on.
Yeah, just a quick adjunct to that, because I pointed out to Robert that the OpenReach had just, out of their own volition, come and done some work outside my house. But I did ask him, had he checked both the BT and OpenReach, and he said he has had statements from both BT and OpenReach that it's not their issue, so they washed their hands of it supposedly at the minute. So that just backs up your point about potentially being proactive.
Yeah, they normally come round every 2 or 3 years and do it, because I normally have a note through saying we need to come and cut the trees back. We have permission to come into your to ground to do it. So we'll keep working on that one, but for this meeting, no resolution on it. Final tree matter. Sorry, on those ones, I should say Ian's been along with me on all those and has been tremendously helpful. And love to pass over to him now, because he's going to report on the whatever it is, traps, burrow-known traps on the chestnut trees. So if Ian can come back and join us, that concludes the tree report as far as I'm concerned. So
brilliant. Thanks, Paul. I've been your famous spreading with trees, becoming the tree man.
I think likewise, Ian, because I think we're quite a team on this. It's been very, very useful having someone else along with a
Brilliant. Yeah, the tree boys. Ian, are you there?
The tree fellas.
The tree fellas.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Well, that's a bit dangerous.
We know that one. We know that.
We don't want to fell them. We want to look after.
Yeah, we do. All right, very quick report from me.
Is he? No, he's back. Good. Yeah.
Is everybody there that should be? Okay, anyway, leaf miner traps in the junction tree were originally put out on 25th of April, and we changed the lures just over a week ago, 5th of June, and rescued the dead males, and counted 527 males.
Is that a lot in tree insect?
It's quite a lot.
It's a lot to count.
It's a lot to count, and the gory detail of that I can give it to you. But anyway, what I want to do is monitor the numbers through the season. We're going to change the traps, the lures in the traps in July 17th, roundabout, and we'll monitor numbers through the season to see what's happening to the population. We carried out a second survey after the one last year, the 9th and 10th of June, found 15 new trees in and around the village. All, I'm sad to report, have got leaf miner. 12 are in the grounds of Chearsley Hill House, which is, as you know, well managed by Simon and Sarah, and the infection there is very low. 2 in the grounds of the old vicarage, and I wanted a little bit of a day out, so I marched over to Chearsley Firs. I don't know whether you know, it's about 10 or 12 acres of woodland in the north west bit of the parish, and I found 3 trees there which had got no infection at all, I suspect, because they were so isolated. So 48 trees have been surveyed in total. The worst affected area is the Aylesbury Road, where we've got a lot of trees. One of those trees is nearly dead. And if you want to have a look at the little so-and-sos that caused the problem, I don't know whether you can see that. That's Cameraria oridella. The males are about 5 centimetres long. So you need one of these, or even better, a hand lens like that to have a look at them.
Do you mean 5 centimetres or 5 millimetres?
5 millimetres, sorry, Martin, yeah.
Blimey, I was just worrying then.
That's cockroach style.
Yeah. Are you able to send it? Sorry, Ian, are you able to send any photographs out to us of these?
I've sent some to Paul. I haven't got what I would really like. I don't think the parish council run to it for obvious reasons. Is a photographic microscope, and I could do all sorts of fancy photographs. Best bet, when we have an actual face-to-face meet, I can pass these round. You can have a look at them.
How much is this photographic microscope?
Oh no, no,
Big money.
a lot of money, not worth thinking about.
I don't know. Some people's big money is not always big, but the point I'm making is that if there is equipment we need within reason that helps the village manage all sorts of things, whether it happens to be speed cameras or things that are damaging our wildlife, etc., then we should always consider it.
Nick, it's a good point, but I would say for this, we know what they are, we know where they are, we know what the means of control is, we are controlling them. Let's monitor it and see how we go on. We don't need any fancy kit at the moment. My laboratory happens to be the garden shed at the moment. I would propose one thing for the parish council to try and get organised in the autumn after all the leaves have come down. We should have done it last year, but we didn't.
Yep.
I put my hand up for not reminding you, is to clear all the leaf matter and debris at the bottom of the tree and destroy it, because that's where they lie till they hatch next spring. And
I think we were very slow out.
2 points then, you know, the males mating and the pupae being cleared up and destroyed.
Ian, I think we're very slow out of the traps doing this, and we as a council should be considering the cost of an external contributor to get this
I
stuff
think you want somebody like a group of guys who go and mow the parish church grounds, a lawn mower team, but with rakes and black plastic bags to clear it all up. It'd be about a morning, and God hope the bell will be open and go for a couple of beers afterwards. It doesn't need a lot more than that, Nick.
Well, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the lawnmower men. They already have their hands full looking after the church and the grounds and everything else. And we need to be careful here. We can drum up more willing hands that will join the group.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, get something like the lawnmower men to do it.
But my point is that we should not, for the sake of a few hundred quid probably, for an outside, you know, I don't know, Paul, Matt's gang or whoever it happens to be that we're in contact with, we should not be, you know, balking at that when it's so important to carry out this exercise. So let's have the conversation later, Ian, but I think all options should be on the table.
Yeah, okay. Just postscript, Paul and I enjoyed working with Paul. I think we've got a handle on, well, I'm getting a handle on. More needs to be done. There are lots of issues in and around the village with trees and other vegetation.
Well, it's good to hear these 3 trees. Obviously, social distancing and isolation has kept these 3 trees in the northwest corner sort of healthy. So,
yeah, they have got another disease though. They've got some sort of fungal disease, or I don't know. They didn't.
Okay, right. Talk too early. All right. Well, Ian, that's brilliant. And can I just ask a question, because I don't know anything about these moths or these beasts, these insects. You say they're all male?
No. The pheromone traps are there to attract the males and capture them and kill them, so they don't mate with the females. and the females don't lay as many eggs. The females are capable of laying hundreds of eggs over about 3 different generations during the season.
So sort the fellas out, the problem solved, really.
It's like that, but I can assure you it's green. The pheromone is a natural occurring substance. We're not using any pesticides or anything like that. If anybody starts worrying that we're spraying lots of nasty stuff everywhere. It's
Brilliant.
all,
Well, thanks, Ian. Well done.
Yeah, brilliant job work, Ian. Excellent.
Yeah.
I shall now depart you. If anybody's got any questions, just as another postscript, the trees in the vicarage, old vicarage, have got a pheromone trap in them, and the Stratfords have also put pheromone traps on their trees. They've got 4 trees, but only 2 traps.
Yeah.
I'll be able to find out if they've captured anything, and we can monitor the situation as we go forward this season and from now on.
And I mean, if this is a really big success, which it sounds like it has been here, we need to, as a council, consider whether we make a generous offer to the residents of Chearsley if they have a 3 or 2 in their gardens, that we would help maybe with the cost of a pheromone trap, because I believe they're not that expensive.
No, they're not. They're about 20 quid each. Just to follow up Paul's point on whose trees are these, a lot of the ones down the Aylesbury Road are in hedge lines or fence lines. So half and half, whose are they? But we might sort on that at some stage. That's for the future, I think.
Okay, well, we'll certainly revisit it. And again, a big thanks, Ian, for all that work.
No worries. Enjoyed doing it. I'll leave you now.
All right. Cheers, Ian.
Cheers, Ian. Thank you.
We're not going to infringe any insect rights by selectively killing males, are we?
It might be transferred into other species. You never know.
Well, absolutely. We've got to keep an eye on it.
Okay, point 7. Contributions from Bucks County councillors. Very little going on with them at the moment. I mean, I think a few of us are already, I know John's myself have been in touch with a regular basis with Clive Harris. Mike Hawkett gone anyway, so he's not on the page anymore. They're trying to get to grips the best they can with a very unfortunate scenario where they've got more bloody councillors than they really need at the moment. Bless them, they're all doing the best they can, but because of the elections and the cancellations of the elections of the unitary authority, I think the councillors are finding it difficult to try and juggle everything. But I think, from what I can gather, talking to various people, I think they're doing a really good job. They're getting on with stuff, and they're just sort of getting things lined up, ducks in a row for, I guess, next May, when the elections hopefully will take place and there'll be a much clearer picture. I don't know, John, if you've got anything to add to that.
No, not really. That was the impression I got, Nick. I mean, you saw my original note, and that was driven by all those committee meeting invitations that were coming through. Yeah. It occurred to me that I didn't really have any idea what the structure was or how they were working. But in actual fact, the information is all on the Bucks Council website now.
Yeah.
Once you understand the backdrop to it, which you've just outlined, it becomes clear kind of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and why it's a bit difficult for them at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So what's this space? Robert, finance.
Well, very little to report because nothing has happened over the last month. So we've had the routine payments, they've all gone through. And apart from that, and the fact that John now has, I think, his read-only rights, then the only thing I would like to just air with the council is the fact that I think we should look between now and the end of the year at the list of fixed assets, because the list of fixed assets just is an accumulation of all the items that the councillors spent money on that remain as fixed assets, but some of them are no longer there. Some of them are no longer certainly of the value that they're supposed to be stated. So what I'd like to do is suggest that perhaps with one or two of you, I do a review over the next couple of months and slim down the list of fixed assets, because otherwise it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I mean, for example, we've got the War Memorial for £10,000. Now, that's what it cost, but it has no value to the council other than its historical and sentimental value. So I think we should record it, but not necessarily at a fixed value. And so I'd like to just do a quick review of that with some of your help, and make a proposal before the end of next year. That's my only proposal for today.
I think personally, what everyone else thinks, but I think that's a very good idea. I mean, it's a difficult one, this, because I've always been used to working with like assets and depreciation as most
So have I.
And so it's almost been a bit of an anathema to me that we seem to hang on to stuff that never devalues, in a sense. It never gets less. And also, as you've already said, how representative is it of what we've actually got and what we need to record it as? So personally, I think a review of that is well overdue.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So with the list of assets, what are the insurance implications? So if there was, for example, the War Memorial, if there was an incident with that, do we need to have it listed with a value on our assets for insurance purposes, or are they two completely separate things?
My immediate reaction is to say no. If it's something that is owned by the council, regardless of the value it's stated at, then the council is responsible. So the War Memorial, whether it's valued at £1 or £10,000 or £1 million, the council is still responsible for any consequential effects.
But what I'm saying is, if so say we valued it at £1, using that example, I don't know, I'm just genuinely asking the question, and say someone drove into it and knocked it over and it got broken and they drove away, would we then have trouble justifying to the insurance company that we needed X amount to replace it when we had it listed as a value of £1? That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
I don't know the answer either, Julia, and it's worth checking that. But what I have to say is that the insurers have never actually asked us for a detailed list of our fixed assets. So it's even cloudier than you're suggesting, but it's worth checking.
Okay. Has anybody else any thoughts?
No, I mean, I would agree entirely with the proposal, and happy to contribute, Robert, if that would be helpful. To any thoughts in the area? I think as far as the insurance is concerned, I think we had this conversation 2 or 3 years back, I recall, and I believe we ended up deciding, or having looked at the policy, concluding that, as you say, Robert, there wasn't really a direct link. It did seem a bit strange, but we seem to have a level of coverage for various items almost regardless of their value. That's my recollection. We should check, though, as you say.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think everyone's broadly in agreement with this, yeah?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, fire away then, Robert.
So Chair, if I may, let me not put a time limit on it, but let me say over the next few months, I'll come back with a proposal.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any reports from councillors attending meetings or outside engagements, organisations? I wouldn't think so.
No.
Subcommittee decisions for ratification? I don't think we have any right now.
No, I don't think so.
So let's move on to officers' reports. We've had Ian. We've had finance. Anthony was just updating. He won't be attending this evening, but I've got an update from him. Basically, now permission to replace 3 stiles on 1 kissing gate to give better access to pass. Unfortunately, due to the recent lockdown, we're struggling to get the work done at the moment. However, it's been logged. They are on the case, and as soon as we can move on it, they will be moving on it. And we're also thinking about using our own contractors. So, for instance, I know that when I say contractors, Anthony's been talking to Graham King, who's an experienced fencer and gate man and all sorts of things, to see whether we can keep it local. If we're not going to get funding, or we are going to get funding, or whatever, let's see whether we can progress things ourselves sometimes if the price is right, because we've got the money in the budget to get things moving quicker. He's in touch through some introductions I've given him to other landowners to get their permissions so we can continue with the access improvements. And already, if you have the document that he circulated some time ago, FP4, which is the style to the gate, James Gibson's farming, has been approved by James. The FP3 kissing gate to gate is Terry Gadsby. That's the one as you go behind, as you come from where, actually, if you come around the corner from where Riverview is on your right, follow it up towards the donkey field. As you go through the first gate, it's that far gate, which is going to be improved access as a kissing gate to give people with prams or pushchairs or buggy cradles. Terry Gadsby and Yvonne have given permission for that to be done. The River FP1, which goes from Mike Haybrook's land towards actually Paul your field. Mike's given the okay for that style to be replaced with a gate. And also the churchyard. If you go into the churchyard and spin off right, there's a stile there that borders up towards Church Lane, effectively, running parallel with Church Lane, and Mike's given permission for that to be removed from as a stile to a gate. So Anthony's been pretty busy. I keep pressing upon him the importance of making sure everybody that's impacted on this. And the one question I had on here, Paul, was, has he spoken to you about the Mike Haybrook field gate?
No.
Oh, right. Out of courtesy, I've asked him to make sure you're in the loop on that.
Yeah.
And that's that takes the path across your beautiful pasture towards, is it Jonathan and Sean's?
Yeah, it's up behind the beech hedge that I've planted. But
Yeah.
It's funny.
Well,
this year is actually the first time anybody's used that footpath at all. Of course, it's superfluous now with since the road was put there many years ago. But if a gate is needed, fine. It seems a bit of an unnecessary thing to me, if I'm being honest. But there we go.
Well, I mean, talk to Anthony. He tells me there's quite a few people that residents have been using the footpath. But
they have. This year they've been using it more because I've mown the field and put some tables down there as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll make sure that message gets through, Paul. But I think, we're still talking with John Lloyd, who's being giving us an opportunity to have some dialogue. James Gibson has been really, really helpful, and one or two other people actually been very helpful as well. So the work continues. That's the officer's report on.
Nick, whilst we're on the subject of footpaths, would this be a good time just to talk about the letter from Brian Green that was mentioned earlier on? His letter
Cycleway
was
to Hadnam.
Yes, he was talking about a cycleway rather than a pathway, but
using the existing footpaths mainly.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that note, John. It's pretty much the same note that Mike Haybrook was very much involved in at the time. interesting.
Can I come in there, Nick? Because I've actually jotted down some notes because I found where we got to on it before. And there is one quite big thing which I think is quite relevant here. Mike certainly looked at it, and the proposal, in fact, is that the cycle path is going to run alongside the railway, which seems obviously the most sensible place to be. And I think he was speaking to the railway people and didn't manage to resolve the issue. But the other end of it, which I think was probably what put the mockers on it in a way, was the whole question of parking, because it's all very well saying, well, it's nice for Chearsley people to be able to cycle to Haddenham, but Haddenham is a major commuter centre. Parking there is sort of £6 plus per day, and if people were able to cycle from Chearsley to Haddenham, they would be parking here, jumping onto their bikes and then cycling to Haddenham. And that was quite a major issue because we don't have any spare parking space anywhere in Chearsley, that, for only 3 or 4, let alone what could be, tens of people coming and parking so they could cycle to Haddenham station. I think, the principle of people getting on their bikes and getting some exercise was great. Don't agree at all with going across our fields, by the way, but I think that's another issue. But taking it down to the, cross down the railway line had some merit, but I just think it's unworkable without parking for probably 100 cars at Chearsley to accommodate it. We've all seen what's happening with the Haddenham station, where there's 2 stories there which is jam-packed full every morning, and I think the same would happen.
Okay, I mean
that's where it was concluded last time. So that was picking up my notes.
And I take the point, Paul. It's very valid. If we don't take into consideration the bigger picture, then we could end up with some problems. John, I wonder whether, the concept, as we've said, is quite good, but is it something we could task Brian? Is this another officer opportunity?
Yeah, I don't know. I only mentioned it because I felt that Brian had written to us, and he obviously needed to consider what we wanted to say about it. But all I would have said was exactly what Paul has just said. That was exactly my recollection of where we got to. I think probably there was also a bit of an issue with Mike's view on where the Chearsley end might terminate. I think he wanted it from the road near the railway bridge, the Crendon Road near the railway bridge, rather than in the village somewhere.
Yeah,
which wasn't going to be a lot of help to anybody. But with those 2 issues, my recollection was that this more or less got parked as unworkable.
Yeah.
And given that there hasn't been huge village demand for it, that seemed to be the sensible decision to me.
Yeah, I sort of tend to agree, but I'm just wondering whether it's worth asking Brian whether he'd be willing to take it on as some sort of project as an officer, but making it quite clear our worries about things like cars and parking and volumes of traffic.
I think those are unsurmountable problems, and I wouldn't actually, personally, I wouldn't think there's any point really going over the same ground again, unless we're going to put 100-story, 100 car park, 100 park for 100 cars. It's just not even worthwhile anyone going through the exercise.
I don't know about 100 cars. I haven't got a clue. So I think we're looking through the crystal ball at the minute. I do know that I have spoken to the development director of Chiltern Railways a couple of months ago, and by a chance meeting I had with someone else, and they were willing to meet and talk about the possibility. But as a council, what do you want to do?
Well, I sort of raised this subject a few months back because there are the possibility of getting grants from H2S. They've already given quite a lot of grants for various things like reciting cafes in Wendover Woods and things like that. And it applies not only to people directly affected by H2S, but people who are on the routes of the cars. And the view was that we'd be quite likely to get considered for a grant for something like a bridge to cross the A418, which I think was another stumbling block of the cycle track. So I mean, there is that possibility still to explore, but that's obviously a fair way down the line from the kind of objections that have been raised, which we need to get some sort of resolution on.
If if there isn't the physical space to park, are we worrying about a problem that's not going to happen?
Absolutely. I really think we've got better things to do with our time. I'm not, sorry, this is a very live broadcast, but we did spend a lot of time on this, and the conclusion was that irrespective of whether the funding was there, if someone said we'll pay for it, even if half a dozen people wanted to cycle from here and park their cars here, we haven't got space. We'd be giving ourselves one massive headache by going down the line and progressing this. I would be totally opposed to progressing in any way, shape or form, personally. That's just me getting off the fence,
Well,
as you...
That rather flies in the face of what we're elected to do, Paul, in that whether we like it, don't like it, have a crystal ball, don't have a crystal ball.
No, we also have to give our opinions, Nick, and I'm sorry, I'm giving mine.
Can I just, yeah, I heard your opinion. You've said in every shape and form. I got that. I'm just trying to say, are we duty bound if we've been offered possibilities with somebody to look at it, to at least consider it? I'm not supporting it or not. I mean, I'm just wondering, as a council, are we duty bound to consider these matters in some shape or form if we have the capacity to do so?
Well, my input on that, Nick, would be that we have considered it and we've reached some conclusions that seem to indicate there were reasons for not going ahead with it. Now, there will be people listening to us this evening, and if amongst those people there's a reasonable number who feel that we're heading in the wrong direction here and that they could make good use of a path like this, then maybe they could let us know. And where I'm driving at in that is that we would probably only go ahead with this, given its background, if we could see a reasonable demand for it. I don't see that we're duty bound to consider something that we've already considered, unless there is a clear requirement from the village that we're not meeting.
Yeah, because presumably if it was local village demand, they wouldn't be using their cars. They'd just be cycling to the station.
Absolutely not an issue at all. No. But if you put one there, you can't stop other people using it.
Yeah, it's a bit like the skate park in Tame, isn't it? You've got the skate park for Tame people, but a lot of people drive to the skate park and park all over the place.
Well, if anyone's listening tonight and we want to comment on this interesting subject that's sparking lots of debate, then you know what to do. Email the council and speak to the councillors and let them know how you feel. And if we think there's enough merit in it, then possibly we can look at it. But I think, am I getting the feeling at the moment from the councillors that we don't want to progress this at the moment because we've got other things on our plate?
And we've progressed it before, yeah.
No, I know.
I would agree with Paul in that respect, that we've looked at it quite in depth in the past, and nothing significant has changed the reasons why we decided not to progress it further in the past. Oh, okay, funding is one thing, but the main issues are space, because there's got to be minimum widths as well, hasn't there? So you can walk on it and you can cycle safely. There's a special term for it. I don't know. I can't remember what the term's called. But
well, I mean, the detail, we don't need to get into the detail. It's a simple question that I'm putting to the council. If you feel this is something that we should be putting to one side at the moment because there are other things we need to do, unless we get sort of a petition landed on our desk, should we leave this for now because we've got other projects we need to consider?
I can say what I said before, Nick. I think we've considered it. There's no reason for us to reconsider it unless there is evidence of a strong demand from the village, in which case...
Okay, those in favour of doing exactly what John is saying, please raise your hand.
Oops.
Yeah, I've got a hand raised.
Yeah, I can't even count properly. John, are you... I can't see. Martin?
No, I'm not having the
Right.
experience of the other people.
It's fine. It's fine. We have 4 for not doing it, and therefore the majority have it.
Right.
Okay, so let's.
I think, Nick, to be fair, you know, we're saying if there is a groundswell in the village, we'll consider it.
Yeah.
But we're not,
Yeah.
so we're not
But right-
kicking it into touch. We're just saying,
I've said
you know,
that.
yeah.
And right now, I've asked the councillors to make a decision. They've made the decision. There are 4 and there's 7 of us. So the decision is we don't proceed with it right now on tonight's discussion.
Yep.
Yep. All right. So let's log that, Helen. And
Do
move
we,
on.
do we want to say how many the majority was or not?
We'll just say we're not
Okay.
we're not moving it. You know, we're not progressing it right now. That's fine. That's democracy. Any others officers' reports that we've not had, or no? I think we're okay. John, any update on Oxford Cambridge Expressway?
No, nothing to add.
Brilliant.
Nick,
Yeah.
if I might just add something, the Chearsley Assets paper, which I produced last year,
Oh yeah.
sort of left sitting. I will update between now and this autumn with more pictures and more history and more about the assets of the village in terms of environment, soils and whatever, and water. And I've been actually walking some of the Chearsley Parish boundaries. It's quite interesting. The boundary between us and Upper Winchenden is the start of a spring which runs down into the Chearsley Brook, which comes out under Hawkes Bridge at the bottom as you go to Long Crendon, and out into the Tame River near Notley Priory, as was.
Well,
I'm continuing with that work, and I will revise that document and update it for the
brilliant.
Parish Council's consideration this autumn.
Thanks, Ian. Oh, it's a good document to start with. So if you're updating it further, that's even better.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay, we're back to parishioners' question time. Well, we didn't have anything earlier. I've not had anything come in on my phone, relevant to that particular point.
I think I have one which I would like to mention, because we have one very, very keen watcher and listener of our parish council meetings in Fenella. And for those who are not aware, she's been in for an operation today, and I've just got an email from her, all well in ICU, trying to watch the parish council meeting, probably back on the main ward tomorrow. Apparently 3-hour operation, which was very successful, and she wants to know whether the parish council would give Fenella transport to races when available. Tongue in cheek, but
I'm afraid, Fenella, if you're watching, we really wish you a very, very speedy recovery. We miss you
brilliant.
a great deal, but the answer to the question is no.
If there's a groundswell from the village, Nick, you know, something you need to consider.
Well, I'm glad you picked that up, Paul, because it's
I did, yeah. No, I listened to every word you say.
good. It's about time.
Ignore it.
Well, it's not an issue for the minute because they're not letting anybody into the races, are they? So,
No.
There we are. We hit a bell. Items for information, or otherwise known as any other business.
Yeah, I've got a few. No.
Keith.
As John H mentioned, you know, there's a lot of concern in the village about speed calming and traffic speed control. Obviously, there's the major works being undertaken at in the centre, but obviously on the approach roads, that doesn't really help the approach road speeds. So there's been quite a few things going on. First of all, there's been the suggestion of having actual signs on a temporary basis, slow down signs, which are, you know, admittedly somewhat in your face. We said we'd discuss that at this meeting. And with encouragement, I'd got a quote for those, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to do anything without getting a majority view on those. I'll come back to that. The other thing that's been happening, I've set up a speed watch team more formally than I did 2 years ago with the Sentinel device. So we've got about 12 odd people who've been on the rota this week. And I'm going to write this all up, but this, this is still in motion. We did another session today. So we've run it for six weekdays. But traffic patterns are a bit strange with COVID, etc. But even so, on one day last week on the Aylesbury Road, in an hour and 20 minutes, there were 28 that were doing 35 or above. Top speed, we've recorded is 53 miles an hour, which is pretty excessive. We've had an injury to pets, and hopefully we're not going to have injuries to people. We've had several near misses, cyclists and pedestrians that have been reported, to me directly. So that there is clearly a problem. So I think that there's some good data from that Sentinel speed watch effort, but it's very time consuming and laborious. And I think one of the other things I've put forward is following suit with Upper Winchington and their speed indicator device, which actually records data on a 24/7 basis. And I think that would be good to move on in principle. The cost of that is of the order of 2,700, 3,000 less VAT, which I know Robert claims back, which gives us an excellent discount. But that is showing some very severe speeds through Upper Winchington that we can use with the police to get proper support for proper police car speeding setups, etc. So quite a lot I've crammed in there. Any comment? So that there was a bit of pushback on us having signs. My suggestion was we could do a temporary exercise to see if having signs out for a week actually slowed down average speeds, or the number of speeders probably would be the thing to measure, because that's the easiest thing to measure. Because I just get a lot of feedback from all parishioners that I speak to about the speeds, especially on the Winchington Road and the Aylesbury Road. It's been a long-standing issue, I know. And it's great that we've got this major work in the centre, but that, still, as I said, does nothing to address the approach roads, which is where, some of the highest speeds are being recorded.
Well, thoughts. I mean, I'm happy to comment in a moment because I think my comments are well known, my thoughts are well known, but comments from the team.
Nick, if I start video, does that switch anybody off?
Yeah.
Will everybody see everybody?
Well, I can. It's only people on iPads. You have to switch.
Everybody.
We can hear you, Ian.
Okay, I'll go back to audio only. Just to say, I took part in one of the sessions. I was not astounded by the speeds at which people were both entering and leaving the village. I think this is a really important work, and the parish council, I think, ought to regard it as a priority very high on their list of priorities, because people genuinely feel aggrieved by the way the village is treated, not only in terms of speeding, but the volume of traffic and the type of traffic. So, John, we'll get around to your commercial vehicle thing. I'd be happy to help with that. I think you guys really need to get hold of this, because it does concern a lot of people in the village.
Okay, let me put some thoughts on the table then. I think we all agree that speeding through the village is probably one of, if not our highest priority in terms of getting it resolved. I think we're doing a lot along those lines already, much as you outlined there, Keith. The Sentinel team seems to be doing an excellent job, the Speed Watch team, and getting the information from Sentinel, and I assume that's going to continue. The speed indicator device a la Winchendon strikes me as being a very good investment, and I would entirely support us getting one of those to supplement what's going on, as I would a radar gun, which was also mentioned. I realise that and the first one are manually intensive, but if we can get the people to operate them, then they strike me as being exactly the sort of initiatives that we should be pursuing. As far as the signs are concerned, I've already indicated informally to most people that my concern with signs is that they do represent more clutter around the village, and we are trying to get rid of that, and we've succeeded in getting rid of it, lots of it, in the work we've done so far. So that would always be a worry for me. And more significantly, though, how would we measure the effect they're having? And in particular, I would say we shouldn't be doing all of these things together. So given that all the stuff that you're leading on at the moment, Keith, I would prefer to see that progressed, and let's see what the outcome is of that work before we take a view on whether we might like to try something different.
Yeah, just a quick couple of comments there. I mean, you know, as indicated, 28 speeders in an hour, 20 minutes past a camera and 3 people in high-vis jackets. I would wager the number of speeders without the people in high-vis jackets and the camera would be significantly higher, I would say. And I can't, you know, that's difficult to measure without having a permanent device there, obviously. That you make a good point on the radar device. That is only £129. So I think, you know, I'd seek approval to get that reimbursed ahead and you know, from the PC, because as you say, it's manual, but it requires 3 people, but it's very simple. We'd own it, the parish council would own it, and we don't have to wait and queue up with the other villages, which is what we have to do for the Sentinel device, which is shared with Hadnam, Cuddington, Ford, Dinton, etc., etc. So we have to try and get a slot for those. Whereas if we wanted to do something, you know, even in conjunction with, you know, the HGV survey or whatever, you know, it would be very easy to do if we had had our own device, or maybe more than one device, because they're so cheap. And the key thing is, you know, because my links with communityspeedwatch.org last week, you know, I had confirmation from the guy, PC Lee Turner, who started all this, that this device was the device to use, and we're, you know, it's legal to use it, and we're insured up to £50 million, which is somewhat reassuring if you're worried about insurance. You know, on the clutter side, you know, it's difficult to argue against that. I completely agree. You know, it's just, I'm getting, you know, I personally suffer, you know, and I know everyone on the approach roads suffers this problem, you know, whether it's noise, vibration, people, you know, near misses or whatever. And, you know, a lot of people have said, yeah, to me, why don't we put signs? You know, we need to communicate that we care. And the way to measure it is with and without, you know, with doing the speed measurement with and without. It's pretty straightforward.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I've got some comments. So I think the Sentinel thing's been brilliant, and also I think we should definitely invest in our own speed gun. I think that would be a really, really good thing. And yes, maybe even 2. Maybe get 1, see what the response is. My main issue with the signs was actually the presentation to us in email form, because it was almost I thought, have I missed that? Have we discussed this at a meeting and we haven't actually discussed it in depth? It kind of was sent as a, we're going to do, we're going to do this. Just say yes to it kind of thing. So that was my main worry about that, because I thought that we should maybe just discuss it, because I worried that it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, I think. Obviously, we've got the expressway signs coming out, and then we're going to have speeding signs, and that is a lot of signs. And I just worry that then the message is diluted. Definitely, it's a priority, a high priority for us with the speeding, particularly on the main routes through the village. Obviously, my road isn't as critical because it's much more rural, but it's definitely a huge problem. And I've indicated to you, haven't I, Keith, that I'm happy to volunteer as long as I get a free high-vis jacket. So if everyone goes for the signs, that's fine. And I think definitely if we decide to go down that route, we need to buy ones that we can use in the long term for, like it was suggested, other village events. But I think we would have to have a real plan on how we would measure any impact, to see if it was worth doing. Obviously, we've got to do everything we can, but I just didn't feel comfortable with just agreeing to it when we hadn't had the thought process discussed.
Thank you, Jules. Any other comments?
I'm pretty much following John and Julia in line with that thinking. Keith, could I sort of understand? I mean, we've got the gun. What does that do? That measures speed.
Sorry, we don't have a gun.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I know you have the Sentinel, but there are two things that we were contemplating buying. One was
what is the speed?
Something a la Winchendon.
Yeah, so that's called an SID, speed indicator device. That's significantly, more. It has to be mounted on a pole.
Yeah,
and that does permanent 24/7 data recording. You download it every week using Bluetooth and a tablet. The cost includes a cheap Android tablet as well, and it displays the speed to the driver plus the smiley or sad, which anecdotally people say that they do react to, when they're driving into Cuddington. Oh, they're reminded that they're over the limit, so they take their foot off, etc. So it has some benefits. The major thing in terms of traffic flow is, if we are, as Upper Winchendon did, they measured, I forget what time it was, but they measured something going through at 108 miles per hour. Then we've got data. We go to the local police and say, look, maybe it's happening every Thursday or Friday. Somebody goes through at 70, 80. And, they are more than willing, I think, to put a car there for an hour and actually catch 30 or 40 speeders, some who will be, potentially facing a jail sentence at those sort of speeds, which sends a great message. And it's not, it's for us, signage is about education. We can't enforce, but the data recording of the SID is very important. And also the manual collection of data, but with the radar device handheld, it's cheap, we can own it, but you have to have 3 people, 1 to operate it and 2 to collect the data manually of car, reg, colour, make, etc. So but we seem to have enough people who've been volunteering, and as you'd expect, as a major issue in the village, and with the current circumstances especially, there's a lot of available people who have said they're more than happy to spend an hour or 2.
So the SID is yes, I mean, it is signage clutter, but it does have the added benefit of very good data capture on an ongoing basis, and doesn't involve the volunteer aspect that we would need to maintain continuity with Speed Sentinel. And I mean, that's what appealed to me. I'm not a great fan of just adding to having taken away a lot of signs, and but I'm the SID idea I found quite appealing, not from an aesthetic point of view, but the fact that it captures a lot of very robust information that would help us. Well, if it does slow cars down, fine, great. But I mean, we could move it, I guess, couldn't we, to
Yeah.
You know, different. It would really document the problem.
Yes.
So that's my thought.
Keith, can I have a quick question on the Sentinel and a radar gun if we had one? Is it
Yes.
permissible to overtly take photographs of offending cars?
I need to check that out. With the Sentinel, it's taking video clips of anything doing 35 and above.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise that.
So the Sentinel does video capture, and then you're allowed to transcribe the data to a spreadsheet. And then you've got to supposedly, I think, get rid of the video data. I need to check whether you could actually take a photo as backup, but that's the implication is if you did take a photo, I don't see why not, but if you did, you'd probably have to make sure you destroyed it after transcribing the data.
Yeah.
So I think the problem is, how would you definitely tie up the correct photograph with the correct speed? I mean, I suppose the same question is asked that, you know,
that's why you have a 3-man team, because 3 people cross corroborating.
Yes.
There you go.
But I mean, isn't that still open to question? I mean, if somebody claimed that they were,
I'm just stating what the rules I've been told by the police are. So if the police are happy with it,
okay.
It's not a judicial thing. It's not.
Yeah.
You know,
and presumably the follow-up process is the same whether it's a radar gun, Sentinel, or the SPID.
Correct.
It's you get a warning letter from the police. It can be, and then there's sort of kind of 3 levels, if I remember rightly.
You can get visits, etc.
Yeah, I mean, and the unofficial way is, as you say, if you tip the police off that every Thursday at 5 o'clock in the evening somebody goes through doing 110, they'll hide behind the wall and nick them.
Indeed.
So, I mean, personally, I think the speed gun is a great idea. I think the SPID is a great idea, and I think the Sentinel's a piece of antiquated rubbish.
It serves a purpose, but you know,
I mean, that's obviously a slightly sort of extreme summary, but that's my view. I'd support the radar gun, and I'd support the SPID, but I think the Sentinel does seem to be the worst of all worlds. I mean, you need 3 or 4 people to operate it, and even though you get video of it, you still got to do a lot of manual transfer.
Yeah, that's the pain with the Sentinel, and you only need 2 people, just for the record. But
if we were to get one with a digital display, the SPID sign, that would be one that shows the speed that drivers are doing, and then the smiley face or the side by face, or just the numbers, or
both. So the one in Upper Winchendon has the speed and the, obviously the smiley face if it's 30 or below. And the sad,
I think if we have one that's numbers, it does help encourage people to look at their speed.
It tells them exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good.
Any other thoughts?
Probably my thoughts would be probably the same as most that have been spoken, but I'm not a great believer in sign clutterage, and I follow Julia's point about notification on it. I think if you read through the minutes of other parish council meetings, everybody on this is exactly the same boat. We just happen to be slightly worse in as much as it's almost like a through road, but without cars being parked at the side. But speeding in the villages is a major problem, I think, in most of our villages, unfortunately. So we're not alone on this, and it does mean there's lots of villages with lots of signs out and lots of things being done, but it's very difficult to know which way to go on it. I do like the idea of the speed gun, I must say, because someone standing at the road there with a speed gun is the one thing is ultimately going to slow people down. Unfortunately, signage, if you read all the documentation on it, it works to start with, but on the basis that a lot of people are driving the same roads every day, if there's no consequences of speeding, irrespective of the signs, unfortunately speeds tend to increase. It's an ongoing problem. Yeah.
I think it's also worth just remembering, and I don't say this is the answer, but we are in the middle of our first initiative still, in that we're awaiting arrival of the Dragon's Teeth, and we're also awaiting arrival of white lining that will at least appear to restrict the width of the road. Both of which were measures we adopted previously as hopefully starting to address the problem. So that plays again to my comment before that we shouldn't probably be doing too many things at once here. We should be doing them serially. Let's get one lot finished, see the effect before we do other things.
Yeah. Yeah. When are the Dragon's Teeth coming?
I don't know. Unfortunately, I've heard nothing more from TFB. Have you, Nick?
No, nothing at all.
No, I mean it's in the Crendon Road as far as Cousins Peace is in the schedule. The remainder of the Aylesbury Road past your house, Keith, is at the minute isn't even included.
Exactly. And
they said they would put, as part of the deal, the arrangement we came to, they will add Dragon's Teeth to because there'll be white lining. They will also narrow the road by the bus stop. But in terms of timing, I'm afraid I can't tell you any more because I've not heard. I mean, at some stage I will chase them again. I think chasing at the minute probably will be a fairly thankless task, but it's on.
Yes,
we've got a commitment to it, but we don't know. Is the simple answer to that. So, weeks, months could go by.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there are some things we can do that will, we think have an impact.
So, shall I just sort of summarise then, so that we don't drag on about this? I get the impression that people are not too happy with increased clutter and signage that creates garden furniture clutter, however you want to describe it, and I sort of get that. And I'm sure if we need to, we can just put that away in the cupboard for now. However, my own view is that we need to start putting some seriously robust money behind relevant equipment, speed guns, smiley faces that capture data, whatever you want to call it, because it does seem that those things are having some impacts, and we can use the information that they gather to help our cause further afield. So the conversations that I've got involved in, John, Howard, you've got involved in people using letterheads from the House of Commons to Bucks County Council highways, getting involved in. And so they're happy to get behind us, but they also want evidence as well. Same with the police, talking with the police. So we can put the little sign saying, please slow down, because we're not quite sure how we might measure them and what they might do, and it adds to the clutter. But I think when it comes to the problems and challenges we have in this village, particularly on the Winchenden, Long Crendon, Cuddington rat run at times, we need to put some money behind it and get the relevant equipment so we can start to really make a difference with tracking data and all the rest of it. So that's my view.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
I absolutely agree with that.
So
can somebody remind me how much the SIDs cost?
Yeah, it cost, including that, which we don't pay, so it's 20%.
£3,000.
The one in Upper Winchenden was
£3,000.
2,700, I think, including 2 battery packs.
Yeah.
There's a solar pack that was 670, but I mean, the 2 battery pack thing, and that included a little tablet, so you don't have to use your own smartphone.
But just to be clear, John Lewis, in my conversation sitting by the roadside with Keith, we both agree that we should be looking for the most up-to-date equipment.
Absolutely.
Quite eloquent, Martin, but you're absolutely right. The Sentinel is very outdated, and we should now be engaging with the proper technology that will take us forward for the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And if that means it's not £3,000 and it's £4,000,
So
then we need to be prepared to put our money where our mouths are and do something about that. And I think that will then engage our audience, our parishioners, to say, you know, they're paying their precept, we've got money in the bank, why aren't we using it for a good cause? So modern technology for me is worth waiting for. And I think, Keith, you had a conversation with somebody saying that the new 5G or the new hybrid that's coming out that will capture data, will transfer it by Bluetooth, etc., is going to be available towards the end of this year.
Well, the one that you know, obviously they've got the one in Upper Winchenden, which has Bluetooth, you know.
But you know, data transfer.
No, so it doesn't have 4G and do it automatically. So you know, I would say that's you have to, if you have to change the battery pack, you have to go to it anyway. You download it. You get one of those to start off with, but the technology will clearly evolve to be more internet connected. And so it'll automatically download or automatically flag things potentially, so you could go online to check it. And that would obviously, you know.
So at this meeting, I mean, Keith's done an awful lot of work on this, as have us as a Speed Watch team, to get it moving and turning up and sitting. Can we get an agreement now that says we can progress this? If Keith is happy, I know you've got a lot on the next week, sir, but if we can progress this, come to some form of recommendation that's put forward to us that we can hopefully sign up to.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, buy at least one speed gun for £129 less VAT.
Well, let's forget that money.
Almost a no-brainer, hopefully. And then I'll put forward the options for the SID that we could get now versus potentially next year. And maybe get one of those if we wanted to move ahead. But I'll put that down formally with the options. Now I've got them all. Yeah.
I'd support that personally, completely.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yep.
Keith, well done. A brilliant piece of work and very interesting. We can regale them with some stories of people who've actually stopped and with chattering teeth and biting their nails, bless them, because they thought they'd been done. But it's been a good piece of work. So we'll get on to that. Thank you very much. Keith, anything else?
Not from me, don't think.
Martin?
No, maybe just to add that, I mean, speeding is obviously important, but the thundering HGVs through the village are important as well. But that's kind of being addressed in the surveys and things that John H is proposing. But I think that is causing a lot of consternation in the village, almost as much as speeding, in my view.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Paul?
I have nothing. You'll be pleased to hear.
Oh, no, I love that contribution. Jules?
Only really to say that I'm not sure if it's gone yet because I haven't checked the last couple of days, but that caravan, I've chased up the council after, I don't know if anyone saw, the Thames Valley Police took a picture of it and put it on their Facebook page saying, if you see one of these, please report it. And I emailed them straight away saying it was reported straight away. It was so annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, I phoned the council and they said it's on their list, but they haven't been doing anything for 2 weeks because of the lockdown. So it's on the list. And I mean, they have been out to it because it had stuff in it. Now there's nothing in it.
Okay.
But hopefully it'll be gone. If it's not gone, it'll be gone hopefully soon.
Good.
Thanks, Jill. Thank you. John H?
Just a couple of things. I'll try and be brief. I circulated a proposal for our next traffic study. Well, I've called it commercial vehicle study. I think what I want to do is replicate the work that we did in 2016. And if you remember that, people monitor which entry road cars come into the village and then also record the exit, because it's very important that we know not just how many cars arrive in the village, but where they're heading. You know, is it most of the traffic, I suspect, won't have changed dramatically, will be the Crendon-Winchenden Road. That was by far and away the biggest. But what I'd also like to do, we did some informal traffic counts, but I think that also just demonstrate the overall weight of traffic, including cars. We will also isolate if an HGV arrives and delivers in the village, we will be able to take it out of the equation, because we want really to get a good sense of what the rat run. Really, that's what we're trying to measure with up-to-date information. anyway, I sent a proposal. I've had 1 or 2 comments back. Thank you very much. I'll fire. I'll put my final note together. John, you mentioned 1 or 2 very relevant things, and let's get it out on the wires, because I've identified Thursday, the 9th of July. And if we're doing this general traffic survey, in addition to HGVs, we'll need a big team of volunteers. So that's the plan. So Thursday, 9th of July. Everybody out there, I'll be on your case pretty shortly. So be warned. But I know I got a good bunch of volunteers together last time. This is long term. This is to inform our dialogue with the authorities, which brings me to my final point, which is we had a note which I circulated from the Wadston freight strategy for Wadston area. And yes, it's a talking shop, but I think it's absolutely crucial for us to be involved in discussions, because, you know, if we are part of a case being made, not just as Chearsley, but Cuddington, Wadston, you name it, depending what it is. Also, in terms of making representations to hauliers, there is very definitely strength in numbers, and also it's a very important feed-in of information. Chearsley is on the map in terms of being a rat run. Let's get something done about it now. And I couldn't promise anybody that we're going to get some, restrictions on HGVs, but if we don't give it a good shot, we certainly won't get it. And I think the proposal was that John and I have been involved, and if everybody's happy, we'll continue the involvement with that.
Yeah, very much so.
And I know it'll hopefully complement some of the work I know Nick's doing with other local interested parties. So that's me.
Nick, if I could just add, sorry, anonymous. Just to back up what John has just said, I was doing the horse chestnut survey last week when the road between Crendon and Tame was closed, and the amount of heavy goods vehicle traffic coming through the village was absolutely frightening. And we need, something to be able to show people what the impact of such changes are. Even such a small change, major impact on the village.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Ian, I forgot to mention, I think one day is one day. There may be particular circumstances, and that's why it's terribly important. The last time we did 3 studies, and I know it's a bit of a pain to, well, some of you bring a good book with you, but I think, we must, that's why we left it till July, to give, if you like, a chance for normality to be restored. But if there is a particular thing happening or road closure, then we'll need to be aware of it. And we still may move the 9th of July, but I would like to plan the 9th of July. And I'm then suggesting we do a further study probably in September and November. But let's review that when we've got the hard information in for our first study.
Okay, thank you. Any other points, John?
No, that's me.
Okay, so just for my diary, that's the Thursday, the 9th of July, yeah?
Thursday, 9th of July.
Thank you. Okay, John Lewis.
No, just a very quick one to say that the Chearsley Trust deed has now been signed by all the trustees, and the first meeting is in the process of being organised.
Brilliant, thanks, John. Robert?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Helen?
No, nothing from me.
Note for John Lewis. John, I will be agreeing a performance review date with Helen tomorrow, if that's okay, Helen. I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Who's reviewing who?
We review each other, actually, Martin. It's a 360-degree piece of feedback.
Excellent.
If that meets with your approval, of course.
Of course it does, yes.
Oh,
hey, sorry, no, I'm happy to feed my information into Helen. Yeah, no props.
Well, it would be useful, Paul, if I was going to say before you mentioned it, if all the councillors have anything they want to add into our performance review together, they can let me have a quick email. That's always very welcome. And also, John, we need to then pick up on the salary review for Helen, because that's set in stone in the document we agreed a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Can you just look at that and make sure you're comfortable with it? I'll confirm the details with Helen, and if approved, which I hope it will, It will be backdated the 1st of April.
Sure. Yes. Okay. I'll have a look, Nick.
And very quickly, because I'm not going to go on about this now, but I did circulate the quote about the double flints granites at the Horse Chestnut. We've asked for a second quote, John, which I think you're looking at.
Yes. Do you know what? That's fallen through the cracks, Nick, because you probably guessed it had.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, John. These things happen. We're all
actually, come think about it. No, we did exchange a couple of emails on it, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think that, yes, I did. I needed to come back to you because I think the quotation that you gave me from the one that you've got didn't specify what length of curbing was being put in. And
yes, it does.
Does it?
I've got it here.
Oh, okay. In that case, I need to read it more carefully.
Yeah. Take granite sets and set aside 11 metres. And then if we
Okay.
want to do additional sets are raised curb level by fitting a second line behind existing 28 metres. Additional works, if we go up the road, will be at £55 per line metre. So it's all there.
All right. Apologies.
It's a great thing to do. It will show that we're actually doing something and we're achieving something, and we've got the money to do it. So I think once we've got the second quote, John, we should circulate that to the team and hopefully move things on.
Okay, I'll get that off in the next day or two, Nick.
Brilliant. That's it from me. Next meeting, I believe, is on the 20th of July at 7:30 p.m. I'm assuming we're still going to be running a Zoom type operation, but you never know. I mean, the shops are open, the zoos are open. I don't know why
it's open.
I don't know why I linked the two, but there you go. So you never know, and you can get back into Spain on the 21st of June. It's all open, the borders, so it's all happening. But everyone needs to stay safe and stay well. And thank you very much for this evening, and thank you to all our YouTube. If you're still hanging in there, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much. And, you know, as we've said, if you've got anything to say it. Let us know what's going on. And in the meantime, I think it's good night from me. And
good night from us.
Good night from us, yeah.
No.
Thanks, Nick.
Cheers.
bye.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Cheers.